I categorize lids into 4 categories. These are the 4 categories. I made these for this because they're all kind of similar shape. And what do the different lids do? So the 4 lids are, this is what I call them, like it's a domed lid. So this is the lid with the Roman arch in the bottom, in here, thrown upside down. The knob was thrown on the top, not tooled. And this is a version of that. Call that a flange lid. So the same, this has a curve in it. You get away with a lot with small lids.
Show me the face.
The larger something is, the more precise it has to be, because you've got gravity and all kinds of other forces that play when it's not at play when it's smaller. And then I make these. If you haven't looked at them, maybe I should pass these around too at the same after when I'm done here. But I make these with a little groove in here. It's not flat, although I do occasionally make them flat, but I want just to demonstrate and contradict myself. This is probably 50 years old. I made a series of jars like this, riffing on Karen Carnes and Karen Carnes pots. So, you know, flat. This is flat, but intentionally, design-wise, intentional. And this, if you can see, was just cut with the wire instead of trimmed. That's what I stole from Karen Carnes. Yeah, visited her once, and she wasn't too thrilled that I was riffing on her. And that's relatively heavy. That was when I was trying to be comfortable working with 10 pounds. I was making a bunch of 10-pound bowls and jars in that period of time. So there's this little groove in here that this little rim fits into, so that the lid sits down a little bit more on the pot instead of, you know, sticking up. And then I call this a recessed lid. So the galley's more square. This galley's rounded. And that is the shape of my finger. This is actually like created, so it's got a 90-degree angle going down that this will fit down into. And I frequently don't trim the bottom of these. I frequently, like if they're thrown off the hump, then there's a bunch of clay there. I frequently just use a felling knife and cut them off and leave the facets. And then this I call a ginger jar lid. And you know, the variations, like if you look at that Japanese book that's going around, all those things, they're all variations of these things. So this fits over right on the outside. And the trick on this one, besides the fit, is trimming this angle to match the angle of the pot. So that it actually sits on the pot instead of coming down and having a flat bottom sticking out. And then when I'm going to glaze these, I put them on the pot, put them on the wheel, and with a really sharp pencil, just spin it and make a line, so I know where the lid is. You know, and then wax right to that spot. And after they're glazed, then put them together and clean. Make sure that I can see clay all the way, a little bit of clay all the way around. And if not, just go back and clean this edge back, 1/16 of an inch, and look again.
Do you do that on the others? Any of the others? Or?
No. On this, I'll typically not glaze it. I think not glaze it pretty much down to where the rim and the shoulder meet.
So remind us, are you spraying or dipping, or both?
This is poured, those are sprayed.
you don't mask them, you just wipe it off.
Yeah. Yep, and I don't use that goopy wax, I use stone sealer for wax.
No, I hate the wax too.
Yeah, the green wax I like if I really want resist, but the white wax that foams like crazy, I've never. So I buy stone sealer, and it's liquid.
You mean like tile at a
Tile
tile
seal.
shop?
Yeah, I use varnish. Is that same thing?
Yeah, but it's not, doesn't smell the same.
Mine doesn't smell.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
odorless varnish?
yeah, it's like I look at my house.
So it's a water soluble
Yeah.
varnish, yeah.
So stone sealer's thick enough to,
And put a coat on it. If it's a bigger area, I'll put 2 coats over it.
What is it?
Stone sealer, tile sealer. Yeah, but it's the same, if you drip it on the pot, it soaks into the pores and you're not gonna have any glaze there. You can put it in a 400-degree oven, that'll burn off the wax, you can reglaze it. But, so anyway, so details, you gotta hold them, you gotta see them to be able to see the details.
you can put it in the oven at 400 and it'll burn off that tile seal?
Yeah.
So you could,
So if you make,
Fix
you make screw up waxing it,
Yeah, yeah.
you just go burn the wax up.
cool.
So bigger versions of these things, I made these. There are 2.
Pass to the, pass
That's it.
to the left. This socket actually comes off pretty easily. You use a little like diamond core thing, and it just come off.
Oh.
And it's just like, because I used to use it with instead of using the wax. Because the wax.
I hate it too, I didn't know there was another option, another eliminating screen.
So there, back in the 50-year-old day, there was no wax for sale
Oh, yeah,
from suppliers.
yeah.
It's kind of like the banks figuring out they can charge you $5 for this and $2 for that. It's like suppliers figuring out, oh, this stuff's available everywhere, we can sell it to you and make a bunch of money.
Yeah. Well, that lid wax, it's got aluminum in it or something like that?
Yeah, there's some of that. Yeah.
And I found that in the bottom of some of my glaze pots, you know.
You could put alumina in your own wax.
Yeah,
I've
But I
I've done
found
that
that it
before.
leaves a powder behind.
I found it at the bottom in my glaze.
The white,
Oh.
the alumina, when you add alumina to the wax, I had
I've
it
never done
leaving
that.
the powder behind.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
leave a powder behind, but it's better than putting the powder on the shelf. It's contained
Yeah.
when you put it. Sometimes I'll put it on if I'm doing like jewelry or something. I'll put it in the wax and on the back of it, and that way because when I put it on the shelf, it'll like disperse and then it'll get on stuff, and it's like, no, I just ruined a piece because I was trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That doesn't
But-
work at cone 10.
Huh?
At cone 10, you gotta have more than you can get in the wax.
oh,
really?
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Especially with porcelain.
I
saw
heard that
this
wax
already.
was this sensitive to temperature. If it gets too
Did you
cold,
see this already?
it seems like it won't, you can't get it
If
to,
it's cold, you can spread it out.
right, and I have trouble getting it back to wake up, after that.
What about wadding? Do you ever put wadding on your lids if you wanna glaze?
I don't want to glaze it.
So, but
Yeah.
that's,
No interest in glazing the edges.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw. So, you know,
I'm
so
going to new
I
roof.
tried to, well, I
You
thought
can
about
do that,
trying
but
to
no
wadding.
glaze.
If
Yeah.
you glaze vitrified enough, your
Not
wood's
try
gonna-
to get it so close.
Well, that's what it seemed like you needed,
Yeah.
yeah. Is this,
Cone 10 gas.
I love the white. One of the amazing.
Oh, is it coming back?
Oh, we saw it already.
Oh,
You didn't see it? You saw it too?
Mhm.
What do you use?
to do what?
Instead of white?
Oh, I.
Porcelain is good,
Mhm.
yeah.
So do you not use any extras instead of? Not on any?
So this is, here's a bigger domed lid, right? So, and different clay, this is flameware clay, you can cook on the stove with it. But in terms of throwing, to me, knowing how to make this kind of a lid properly is the basis for making all the rest of it properly. Because you're still, right, you're doing this, you're still throwing a bowl shape, the same thing down there. And especially if it's a bigger lid. This is also curved. This is curved. So all of it, to me, you know, depends on having the skill to throw that even curve that if you flip it over as an arch, that would stand up over be a bridge over a river or whatever.
On the
No.
recessed one,
Yeah,
you throw knot side up,
this is all one piece, yeah.
and then you flip the other side and carve it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is thrown in, like as I'm throwing this, I center it and I go down and leave a chunk of clay at that size there, throw this out to the right size and then go back and make the hole in the middle and shape that for that's a fountain for people who don't. So, bigger lid, so bigger pots, like they're just round pots. Right? Nothing wrong with just round pots. But there's an evolution, like with a couple of these pots, as I was doing the lids. And so this pot, like the lid's a lid, it's not the pot, the whole thing's gotta work together. Right? So when I trimmed this, I left this little raised area here. And I'm looking at the pot and I'm like, that doesn't just work by itself. So it already had this shoulder that was flat. So I went back and carved as a trimmed this in. That was better, still didn't go what I call clunk. So when I'm working on things, I have a physical experience when it's done. It's like a visceral clunk, like it's in harmony, it balances, it looks and feels right. And it didn't yet. So then I went and
Will you move the yellow pot for me, please? Thank you.
So then I went back and when this was thrown, this was just smooth here. So I went back and trimmed this in to accentuate that edge. And that was better. I went back about an hour later and realized the bottom didn't work. So I went back and carved this in and increased the curve in here. So that when I looked at it, I was like, okay, now it works. But then I came back and I was gonna get these to take it back to bisque. And this lid was too high. That wasn't bisque yet. So then it's bone dry, it's porcelain fortunately, easy to trim porcelain dry. So I went back and kept trimming this down and putting it back in the pot and looking at the proportions until it fit. Yeah, well I was happy, yeah. And that's, you know, we do that with lots of things. This pot I had all done, and then at the end, this was too tall. So again, bone dry, I went back and trimmed this shorter so that I liked the proportion with the lid better, like where it sat down over the rim. And someone mentioned the liner. I only use 2 glazes anymore as liner. They don't craze on anything, porcelain and stoneware. This white and a glaze called Iceladon. It's a clear with very, very slightly blue on porcelain and like deep ice. Neither one of them craves on any stoneware or porcelain that I use, so that's what I use to line things. This pot, when the lid, it had a knob about that tall on it to start with, and I didn't like it. And then I trimmed, but before I did that, I trimmed this in and trimmed this in after I'd done that pot. And then went back to play with the lid. I added more clay on it and played with it until the shape and the shape, to me, worked with the whole pot. Pardon?
I never even thought about that, when your pot is still wet enough, you can actually increase the length of your.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And even, as long as it's not bone dry,
Right.
if you're adding something on a little piece,
Yeah,
you know, you can spray it
Yeah.
and then store it and water it and store it and water it to make that little bit wet enough. You can
Right.
make like that.
Did you add the knob to this after?
That's thrown on
So that's thrown on after you
after
trimmed
it's
it?
trimmed, yeah.
But that would be through the knob as part of the lid clay, is that right?
One piece of clay, centered. So the piece that I actually left there was probably about that big, maybe an inch wide. And just went straight down with my fingernail. I don't know how many of you know what good ribs your fingernails are.
Oh, yeah.
Went straight down and just leave it, I leave that alone and then go back and throw this. Like if you're throwing, you know, a traditional chip and dip thing with the bowl in the middle, it's like you just leave a chunk of clay in the middle and throw your plate and shape it, then you go back and make the bowl. You know. And once I've got this size, then I go back and I use my finger to make the hole. My baby finger seems to be really close to the size that I need.
It seems like that knob is just a smidge above the rim. Did you trim down the rim then or something?
No.
do you know, Coyote?
No,
They have nice money.
I mean, the water bubbles out of here, right, and falls back through the holes.
Yeah,
Um,
of them, they don't mark.
I angle this so that the water tends to go this way instead of splashing. This was my solution to how to make fountains that you can put on wood furniture that you care about. They don't splash.
So wait, say that again, so the hole is angled a little bit?
Just the rim on it, so that the water bubbles and goes down to into the recess. I used to make them flatter, and like every once in a while, water would bubble and hit it, and a little drop would go. But I tried for years to make kind of a traditional bowl shape, a fountain, and some kind of fountainy bubbly thing in the middle, small, house size. They always bubble. So you know, like, you want to put this on your furniture, buy a big piece of cork, or buy something else.
Really nice liner glaze. The finish on that liner glaze is just lovely. So,
It's good on stoneware too, but it has that super butteriness on
yeah,
it.
it's really nice.
Can we make a cone 5 version?
Try. It's gonna change by changing the fluxes. But
I'm looking for a new liner glaze.
going glazy, there's probably a waxy white.
But, yeah,
Put a 5/6 thing on there.
no, I'd be willing to make some if they were one.
Right.
Really,
We just saw the time,
and I have more space now, that would be my other excuse.
That's what's because you're the rush too, right? It's so beautiful.
So any other, just before we take a break and we come back and I throw and we talk about that. Any other questions?
Why do you every time you see it today?
S-cracks? That's a good question. So,
On the bottom of the lid.
oh, at the bottom of the lid?
Yeah.
Throwing off the hum?
No, not throwing off the hum, just throwing off the lid.
Don't know. No. I don't have a problem with lids, I have a problem with platters. But, and throwing off the hump. So, I had got an order once for 400 little bowls from the Ojai Valley Inn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working out of Larry Karn's studio at that point in Ojai. And about half of them were cracking. And I asked, what would you do? What would you do?
Cry.
I tried all the traditional, let the clay be a little stiffer.
Cry.
After you smooth it out, take a ball of normal, a non-wet clay and put the little thing in the middle and push it in to absorb a little of the water. Blah, 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 blah.
I thought it was from pulling the clay. I always just always go back in. I thought it was from stretching. No?
No.
Oh.
Uneven moisture,
Yeah,
because when the clay shrinks, it has to go somewhere,
Yeah.
and it just pulls it apart in the middle if it shrinks
Well, his,
too much, or more in the middle than it does for the whole.
but there are
Physics.
micro cracks in clay, even when we're throwing with it. And so where I discovered this was, let's see if I can even find something that I would be doing it with. So let's say this, let's say I make a smaller version of this. No, because I have to be cut off. Something I'm gonna cut off. I don't know if I have anything here. I can use this to demonstrate the topic. So let's say I've made this bowl, and I want to dry it with enough that I can trim it. Like right now, if I'm going to make things, someone's going to take the heat gun and go dry off the top of the lid enough that I can trim it. So I've made this pot. I'm in a class and I'm demonstrating, and I need to be able to dry it off enough to trim it. So I use a heat gun, I dry this and this, it's no longer sticky, and I cut it off and I flip it over, and it's still wet down here. And I'm drying up there, thing is spinning on a banding wheel, and I'm trying to dry the bottom. The bottoms are cracking.
Oh, during drying.
During drying. They're pulling apart and cracking. And sometime a few months after that happening a number of times, I thought, what would happen if I burnished the bottom before I fried it? Burnished it. So I just took, just a soft rubber rib and just smoothed it. They don't crack.
Really?
That's really funny.
So that it
because
holds itself
I'm
together.
building a bowl, a shallow bowl, like a brain bowl. And then a few hours later, when I came, one of the lip parts had cracked. And I remember once Jeannie saying that if you make it really wet again and fill it, and then I smoothed it with a rib, and then I burnished the whole wall. And I looked this morning and it was still in one piece, so I don't know if it worked.
Well, I think you cut the pot off. People cut with the pot still, people cut with it spinning. I've tried both of those. Still get cracks if I use the heat gun. But if I
Like you start to trim it in the cracks, if you
No.
burnish it first.
not trimming, drying,
Oh, okay.
putting a heat gun on the bottom of the pot
Oh, that's what.
to dry it off so that it's dry enough that I can trim it. It's still sticky.
That's when it's cracking.
Yeah.
The wire coming through the clay is creating enough tension to make little micro cracks in the clay. And heating them up, they're pulling apart. And burnishing them is pushing them back together. That's all I can figure out.
If you do air dry, just wait, you don't get the cracks, or you get?
No, because I'm trimming it and kind of, by the wheel spinning, and I'm trimming and pressing and kind of like healing, whatever that is. Clay's still soft enough, you can move it around. But there's something happening.
With that heat gun?
Well, just in clay, how much of it is the cutting? I use bamboo porcelain. Bamboo porcelain, when I get it, is frequently way too wet to work with. So I wedge it and wedge it and wedge it, or I cut it up and wedge the pieces back together. I've learned if I'm not really careful when I put the pieces back together and how I wedge them, it throws like everything's sealed, it wedges like everything's sealed and homogeneous, but cracks happen between where those pieces were reattached or where they were folded over each other. So if I've separated it, if I've let it dry, it's like I've now moistened the surface, or if I've separated, I moistened the surface before I put it back together. There's no tactile sensation of that those pieces aren't sealed, but there's still a micro something happening in there where it's not the same. Larry Carnes used to insist when you spiral wedge, so you've got the spiral at the bottom, whichever, said you should always put the clay on the side.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because it's sometimes where you wedged, it'll crack.
Oh, not on the spiral? You mean on its side?
On the side, so the spirals are on the
On the
ends.
sides?
I've never done that.
So
but
you
that was-
rework it when you throw,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you like,
I mean, the theory, the mythology is you wedge it and you do it that way and it helps it be more plastic and helps it do X, Y, and Z. And I don't know that any of that stuff is true, but
what Larry says makes a lot of sense in my head.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a clay that, like I have other clays I can do anything with, and they don't care. But that specific clay is really fussy. And this clay, this is Hopkins White, which I almost never had any issues with. There you go.
Oh, what happened?
And it was almost bone dry and not cracked. And I came back after 2 days. There it is.
And what color was that? Was that pebble?
No, this is Hopkins White. It's a white stoneware. Yeah.
Oh, what do you do?
Yeah.
Throw away. Yeah.
You wouldn't try to fill that in and.
No.
It's all work.
It'll take more time than it will make it.
Yeah,
But
it'll get white.
but the lesson for me, if I want to use that clay, I have to leave it covered till it's bone dry. I have to give it, instead of giving it a week, I've got to let it have a month, once a month.
Under plastic?
So what is that, like a bag of clay?
Yeah.
So when
Try and
you
reclaim it, try and reclaim it.
when you wire all the holes, is your wheel going around, or do you?
It depends.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So sometimes you wire it off stationary, and sometimes you wire it off when it's
Yeah.
rotating.
Probably more rotating.
Do you think that helps if you're wiring it off?
That's what I thought, but when I did the heat gun thing, I tried both and they still
It doesn't make a difference.
dry. And this wasn't cut, this was on a plastic.
Yeah, no,
I waited until it released from the plastic. So, yes, cracks.
Clay,
Ain't a pot till it comes out of the glaze kiln.
clay.
Okay, so we're gonna take another break. I'm gonna demonstrate, we're gonna talk, and I'm kind of a lay of the room. So what would you like to see?
I can see you anytime.
That is very design is learning how to row. Anything that I say is gonna be
Are
great.
you throwing just the lids or pot lids?
Pot and a lid. Got it, the galley, the lid's nothing without.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a particular kind of lid you mean, like to?
Okay, so I'm gonna start, like I said, I think that the dome lid, like the casserole, that's the basis of the rest of them, so I'm gonna start there, and we'll see, I'll throw all four of them if we have